Get out of that seat now. You're making the other passengers uncomfortable. Those words cut through the polished cabin of Mesa Airlines Flight 227 like a blade. Catherine Ward, the lead flight attendant, sharp and unyielding, was staring down an 11-year-old boy. Malik Johnson, quiet, composed, dressed sharply in a navy sweater and dark slacks, sitting perfectly still in seat 2A, not causing a scene, just sitting like he belonged, which he did. But to Catherine, that didn't matter. Let me back up a sec. Malik was flying first class alone for the first time. His dad, David Johnson, CEO of a big consulting firm that worked closely with Mesa Airlines, bought him that ticket. The boy had his boarding pass in hand, calm as ever, but when Catherine told him to leave, everything changed. "This seat is mine," Malik said, holding up the ticket like a shield. "I'm not asking. I'm stating a fact." Catherine smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You must be confused," she said, blocking the aisle like she owned the place. "Policy says unaccompanied minors have to sit in the front row of economy." Malik didn't budge. "My dad called ahead. This is confirmed. I'm allowed to sit here." Passengers started to watch. Mrs. Linda Perez, a Latina woman nearby, whispered, "Why are you making him move? He's not doing anything wrong." But Catherine ignored her, and Malik stayed put. Soon, Catherine called for backup. A gate agent named Tamika Jones showed up. Young, professional, and immediately recognizing Malik, she scanned his boarding pass and confirmed. 2A, first class, priority seat. Executive operations had already cleared this. Still, Catherine insisted, "We don't usually seat unaccompanied minors in first. We'll get you a seat in economy." Tamika tried to explain, "He has special clearance. It's approved." But then the first officer, Jason Miller, arrived, sizing up the situation with cold indifference. "Let's just move him to coach," he said, brushing off Tamika. "We don't want disruptions." Malik rose slowly, grabbed his backpack, and looked back at the seat. Then, with quiet strength, he said, "I hope you realize what you just did." No shouting, no tears, just dignity as he was escorted to the back, near the emergency exit, a seat normally reserved for adults. The weight of the cabin felt heavier. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances. Malik pulled out his phone and called his dad. "Dad, it's happening again." You see, this wasn't Malik's first time facing this. A year before, flying with his mom, Dr. Alicia Johnson, a surgeon, they'd been upgraded to first class only to be questioned and almost forced to move. That time, Malik cried. But now, at 11, he knew exactly what was going on. "My dad told me, never raise your voice. Raise the truth." Back up front, Jason Miller brushed off Tamika's concerns, uninterested. "We're not delaying the flight for a seat issue." Tamika stood her ground silently, her gut twisting with the injustice she witnessed. She called VIP services quietly, alerting them that Malik was wrongly removed. Passengers like Linda Perez and George Whitmore, an older white man in first class, started to stir. George admitted to himself he had judged Malik without cause. Bias isn't always loud, he thought. Sometimes it whispers. Then, just when it seemed like Malik's dignity might be crushed beneath layers of policy and prejudice, his father arrived. David Johnson, CEO and Mesa Airlines consultant, stepped onto the jet bridge with calm authority. No shouting, no demands, just presence. "Your son's boarding pass was valid," Tamika told him. David nodded, eyes sharp. He walked past the airline executives, trying to manage the situation. "You weren't there," he said flatly, "but now you will be." Malik's posture stayed straight as he watched his dad approach. No words needed. The quiet strength between them said everything. David addressed the crew firmly. "We're not just fixing this. We're resetting the standard." Suddenly, the cabin felt like a courtroom suspended in the air, where silence was loud and justice was about to be served. Quietly, but undeniably. Catherine Ward's confident smile flickered. Jason Miller's disinterest faded under the weight of accountability. Passengers leaned in. The energy shifted. This wasn't just a seating dispute anymore. It was a reckoning. David demanded the flight be held until the incident was fully addressed. The pilot, Captain Reynolds, wary but respectful, agreed. This flight wasn't taking off until the wrong people stepped off. Linda Perez stood up, voice steady. I saw everything. That boy showed his ticket. She never even looked at it. George Whitmore stood too, admitting aloud. I judged him, and I was wrong. Catherine Ward tried to explain her actions as protocol, but David cut through the excuses. This wasn't about policy. This was a personal judgment call. You saw a black child in first class and decided he didn't belong. Jason Miller's composure cracked. I followed the lead attendant. That's complicity, David said sharply. Passengers watched as two crew members were called to replace Catherine and Jason. The cabin doors stayed open, not because of delay, but because a new chapter was being written about respect and equity in the skies. Malik didn't smirk or celebrate when escorted back to 2A. He walked with the same quiet strength that had carried him through this ordeal. A few passengers clapped softly. David turned to the crew and said, Bias doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers behind a smile or hides inside a policy. But my son heard it, and so did I. Then he declared, this plane doesn't fly until the wrong people step off. The tension broke into something like understanding, and the plane finally readied for departure, not just carrying passengers, but carrying a new standard. Later, at a press conference, David announced the Malik Protocol, a company-wide initiative to train crews on implicit bias, to empower passengers, especially unaccompanied minors, to ensure dignity in every seat. The protocol would include mandatory training, new reporting channels, and procedures to protect vulnerable travelers. Malik himself spoke calmly to the crowd. Respect should never need a title to be given. I didn't want attention. I just wanted to sit where I belonged and be treated like I deserved. No applause was needed. The truth in his words settled in the room like a quiet storm. Other airlines began reaching out to Mesa, adopting similar protocols. Flight attendants made eye contact with kids. Gate agents paused to explain clearly. A culture shift began, one born from the courage of a quiet boy and his father's steadfast fight for justice. Even Catherine Ward never returned to Mesa Airlines. She later sent Malik a letter, admitting she had learned more from him in 5 minutes than in her entire career. Malik kept the letter, but never responded. It joined the folder his father started, not a scrapbook of pain, but a timeline of change. Months later, Malik and David boarded a different Mesa flight. No fanfare, no cameras, just peace. The flight attendant greeted Malik by name. Seat 2A ready for him. Thank you, but you can just call me Malik, he said with a small smile. David nodded. You don't need a big seat, just a fair one. The plane lifted off, carrying them forward and carrying a new legacy in the sky. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Was justice served? Or is this just one story in a much bigger problem? Drop your thoughts below. Share this story if it moved you, because sometimes quiet dignity changes everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that matter. Until next time, stay kind, stay just, and never underestimate the power of standing your ground with grace.